So today I was going to do one thing, but I'm going to have to wait till Friday when we have more time. But today we're going to talk about the last strategy for factoring. And this last strategy works on every type of polynomial that's written as a quadratic polynomial in standard form. It's called the quadratic formula. So you will be definitely needing your chart. So this is lesson 9.5. Go ahead. Now you're going to have to memorize this formula, but I'm going to teach you a little song that will help you remember it. And today's date is 5, what are we, 11? Yeah, 11. 5/11, okay? So we must start with your equation must be in
standard form.
In standard form. Which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And just like I've been asking you to do, remember when we were graphing earlier in the chapter and I asked you identify your a, b, and c. If your equation is not in standard form, your a, b, and c may be in mixed up order. So that's why you have to make sure that your equation must be in standard form. Then you're going to identify the values of A, B, and C. Now again, I don't like doing lessons where I say, here it is, use it, but that's kind of where our time has taken us to today. On Friday, we're going to talk about where on earth did this come from, okay? So the quadratic formula looks like this. We're looking for x-intercepts, so the formula starts with x. And it equals, and it's kind of lengthy, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Okay? So here's how we can try to memorize this is by learning it to a tune. I had a student who cracks me up. He was going to a private school up in LA he was applying to, and so he had to take a placement test, and he started humming the tune as he was doing the math, not realizing he was humming it not in his head. And he said he's doing his math, and he looks up, and everybody's staring at him, because the tune we're going to learn this to is Pop Goes the Weasel, and not many people sing Pop Goes the Weasel that much anymore. All right, so it sounds like this. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I emphasize that all over because that 2a is the denominator of that complete numerator, not just a denominator over the negative b, not a denominator over the b squared minus 4ac. So I'll do it again. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Wow. Now you get to join me. Okay? Oh, no. Oh, yes.
Don't remember.
Well, you're going to be joining me. You want to sing? It's not happy birthday, but this is going to help you do your homework.
Got it.
Ready? On the count of 3. 1. No. Michael. 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 We're recording this, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We're going to do it one more time together, and then you're going to do it on your own. Together as a group. But I think what I may end up doing is making you do it individually down the line. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, last one's on you. This is going to be scary. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over
Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, so, Michael, chill. So what we're going to do is put this into play. Because you got to see how you're going to need this when you're solving problems, okay? So we're going to give you directions. Are going to say solve using the quadratic formula. Now, there may be different ways to solve. However, you're practicing this strategy. And so what will most likely happen on the test on this material is I will specifically say complete the square on this one, use quadratic formula on this one, factor any way you choose on this one, okay? So we have something like x squared minus 12x equals negative 20. So rule 1, is it in standard form? It isn't, so that's where we're going to start. Opposite operations, we add 20 to both sides. We have x squared minus 12x plus 20 equals 0. Now that it's in standard form, we're going to identify my A, my B, and my C. So what is the value of A? 1. Shh. What is the value of B? Shh. What's the value of C?
20.
So then we write the formula. And as I'm writing it, I'm singing the song in my head. X equals negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And I write this formula every time on my homework tonight, folks. I want to get this in my head. And then I start substituting. X equals the negative of B. So remember, you write the negative from the formula. You use parentheses to put around your number. I need you to distinguish between the formula and the sign on the number. And then the formula continues with plus or minus square root of, and then we've got the B again, negative 12, but this time we're going to square it. And then it says minus, and then it says 4. Now we go back to the numbers from here. A is 1. C is 20. Michael, show some maturity right now. Then 2 is part of the formula, and we're going to multiply with A, which is 1. And then we just start doing math, and that's all that we're left with doing. So x equals 2 negatives make a positive 12, plus or minus the square root. Negative 12 squared is 144. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times 20 is negative 80. 2 times 1 is 2. So we simplify again. We get x equals 12 plus or minus the square root. Let's see. 144 take away 80 is going to give me 64 all over 2. I'm going to scooch back over here. And, can I take the square root of 64?
Yes.
Square root of 64 is 8. So now I'm down to 12 plus or minus 8 over 2. So I take each of the cases. X can equal 12 plus 8 over 2, which is 20 over 2, which equals 10. Or x is equal to 12 minus 8 divided by 2, which is 4 over 2, which equals 2. So my x-intercepts, my solutions, my roots, are 2 and 10. Now, could I have solved this using a different strategy? And the answer is yes, absolutely I could have. Okay? I could have factored normal way, play the game. But you're being specifically asked to do this. Now, this will work on every single problem, but notice it takes a little time to get through all that math. Okay, let's do another one where you're going to get a square root. So you can see how to handle that one. Okay, so let's have 10x squared minus 5x equals 25. Is it in standard form? No, so we're going to rewrite it in standard form. We're going to subtract 25 from both sides. Now, what you... All right, so we've got 10x squared minus 5x minus 25. You don't do anything to those numbers. You identify your A, your B, and your C. So A is,
Couldn't you simplify?
no, you may not. I just said that. You may not simplify. A is 10. B is negative 5. C is negative 25. And then we substitute it into x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we have x equals the negative of negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4 times the a, which is 10, times the c, which is the negative 25. All over 2 times the 10. And then we just start solving. So we get x equals double negative makes it positive 5, plus or minus the square root. Negative 5 squared is 25. We have negative 4 and negative 25 is a positive 100 times 10 is a positive 1,000. All over 2 times 10 is 20. So we get x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 1,025 over 20. So here's what becomes vitally important, is dealing with simplifying the square root of 1025. What perfect square goes into this number? Look at the last 2 digits.
15? 25.
5 is not a perfect square. 15 isn't. 25. 25 goes into 102 4 times with 2 left over and into 25 once. So now we're at this. X equals 5 plus or minus square root of 25 is 5, and then we have a square root of 41 all over 20. Now, notice you have 3 outside numbers. Do those 3 outside numbers have a common factor? They do. You may simplify them. Divide out a 5 from each of them. So then we have x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 41 all over 4. This is where your chart comes in handy. What's the square root of 41? 6.403. And you'd go through the 2 cases. 1 plus 6.403 divided by 4. Hold on. 7.403 divided by 4. That gives you 4 into 7 once with 3 left over. 4 goes into 34 8 times, which is 32 with 2 left over. 4 goes into 25 times. Stop there. Round to the nearest tenth. 1.9. Hold on. 1 minus 6.403 over 4 is negative 5.403 over 4. Gives you a negative 4 goes into 5 once with 1 left over. 4 goes into 14 3 times, which is 12 with 2 left over, and into 25 times. So the answer rounds to the nearest tenth, and we get negative 1.4. So your 2 answers are negative 1.4 and positive 1.9. And homework's on the board. We'll go more on Friday.